Okay, so Charlie and I are looking at this Airtable and we've come up with a issue, and that's basically sometimes you have automations that trigger when two things don't match or when you're using an update record. Oftentimes this happens because someone's typing, but they're not finished typing, and Airtable triggers what I would say is almost prematurely. So we want to show a possible solution to this. Uh, there's many solutions, I think, but this I think is one of the cleaner ways. So we'll talk through how to overcome and maybe come up with some solution so the Airtable is not triggering prematurely, or it's at least handling it if it is triggering prematurely. Is that accurate, Charlie, for what we're doing?
Yeah, I think so. I think it has to do with like sometimes we expect our triggers to act a certain way and they don't, and it can lead to confusion. And it's like, how do we make the best version of an automation? So I'm gonna kind of like spitball here to try to make the example, but like let's say we have a currency field and the value of this line item is like 500, and I wanted to like tell someone on our team that they're gonna get a bonus of 25% or 20% of that whenever you know something happens. So let's like create a formula that's like employee bonus calculation, which is just going to be zero point 0.2 times value. Let's make that into a currency. Now, what if in the future we want to change this to be 25%, or it's dynamic based on the type of record this is? So we'd want to create a separate field to actually stamp this number. So we'd want to create our like employee bonus like final like number right here. So this we'd want an automation to automatically paste this right here. Pretty simple. But what happens if I change this and I say this is actually 550 now, right? I want to have something to update this and stamp this over here. So what people would typically do, like kind of along the learning curve of this, is say employee bonus calculation equals employee bonus this. And you could even make it a bit more fancy to say if and. So if we have both of these numbers, or I guess in this case it'd just be, well, let's just keep it simple. Although this does not look simple. So if I have both of those numbers there, then show me something here. So you'll see that right now it does not match. So if I put this back to 500, it would match again. So I can now build an automation that when in this table that calculation equals 0, I want to update the final compensation to be the calculation. Okay, so if we test this now and I paste in a value, so I'm just going to paste the value 600 here. This should trigger the automation, and it should go and paste 120 over here. Let's see if the automation gods like me. Did it not happen? It's still in progress. Gotta pay our Airtable bill. All right, so now you see it just pasted it. Again, if I like, I guess, undo it and put it back to 500, that should again trigger it to go and paste it. The problem with this becomes, and let's give this a name, proper name, trigger for automation. Let's not get too into that. Problem becomes, we are humans. We're not copy and pasting things like values or even dates. This happens a lot of times with dates, as you know, Ben. So if I type here like 400, what's going to happen is like that actually triggered when I typed 4, and it's probably only going to put like what, $1 here in the employee stamp. No, Okay, so in this case, it did it well. Okay, there we go. So it did it well. Now let's do it a bit slower. So, Bob, what was that number? How much did you say it was? 450, right? You said 450? Okay, yeah, 450. And you see, like, as I'm typing that out, that automation just now put 80 cents, 20% of $4. And it's still zero because this does not match this, but it didn't re-trigger my automation. My automation just said, hey, my work is done here. And you haven't told me anything new to do. That's where this starts to get a bit funky and where we're going to come up with a couple different solutions. Like one solution, and I'm not saying this is the optimal one, we're going to kind of make our way to the optimal one, or Ben, do you think we should just go straight to the optimal one?
Let's go straight to the optimal one.
Okay. The optimal one, why not, right? Why are we going to talk about less than optimal solutions? That's
Exactly.
what people pay us for. Okay, so the best way would be, as I'm typing this out, to actually have a delay. So as I'm typing, 555, it's waiting some time for me to finish my keystrokes to then do the lookup to see what value it should do. And the way that we do that, Ben has a very fancy automation here, or at least a script, a delay script that you can find down there in the bottom. And if I simply just copy the script and I go back to this automation that we had and I paste it here, let me create a new step, finish editing. This is going to add 10 seconds. It's based in milliseconds. So it's going to add 10,000 milliseconds. And then we don't want to just update right away. We're actually going to find the record and pull the value of that record at the end of those 10 seconds. So we're giving us some time. So we're going to go back over here based on a condition. The condition is probably want to go off of a record ID. So let's create a formula.
So Charlie's adding this formula because you need to be able to know which record you were talking about. And right now we don't have a way to keep the records unique in using this search function. Yeah. But this record ID allows us to. That's what how Airtable considers each record unique.
Nice little thing here to say only one. And I guess that's it. I wish Airtable would create, when I create a new table, already create a record ID field and a created time field. I think those two fields are like so valuable, so much more so than like assignee as a standard, but that's besides the point. So once I find that record, I'm going to update the value based on the current status of that record. So I'm going to go over here, get the calculation, and paste. So let's try this again. Right now it is out of whack, so I'm going to put everything back into Fiverr, or maybe let's just start off with a new one. So actually, this is a good example. Someone tells me, hey, this guy just got one, 500. So that should have triggered the automation. Oh, interesting. So our AND function was not needed here. Let's take that out. Because we obviously don't have a value there. Okay. So that should have now triggered it. Right there, it's in progress. I think there's also an upper limit to this seconds, right? Do we want to say that? It's probably like 20 seconds.
I think the script times out at 30 seconds. However, I don't know if that would prevent our automation from continuing.
Yeah, I think it would.
So it's important, I guess, to talk a little bit about why we think this is the best one. And I think there's certain trade-offs. Like if you're a really slow typer, as in you can't type your number in less than, let's say, 10 seconds, then you could still technically have errors in this. Like if you're not done typing after 10 seconds. But yeah, most of the time, I think you're done typing within at least 5 seconds.
Yeah.
If you're a super slow typer, like kind of what we're trading off is the ease of the user experience, because you could have a checkbox. I think that's where Charlie was probably going with it on the first time, is you could have a checkbox and say, okay, user, after you're done typing your number, check this box. But that like complicates the user experience and makes people, it's easy to just type a number, but to type a number and then know you have to like check a checkbox isn't super intuitive. Whereas I think this is probably the best solution because it doesn't require any extra thinking. We're trying to make the system think around how the user is going to behave in the system.
Yeah, and I think lastly, like you could do it based on when this is updated, and I think that would still be pretty powerful and effective and go along with the
Mhm.
keystrokes effectively. So I think that would also be a solution, but um, it's still clunky because especially with dates, imagine you're writing a date and you're writing like 8/9/90. Right when you write 8, Airtable thinks this is August of the year that Jesus Christ was born. And so it'll put a date, 0 AD or whatever. I don't know, like 200 AD. And yeah, I have some sales figures in my CRMs that go way back in time. Um, so this does allow for, instead of Airtable, with every keystroke you're doing, trying to assume what you want this output to be, it's like, let's give it time, let's give it a break, let's come and like give it 10 seconds. But maybe what it could be though, Ben, is it's, and 10 seconds is pretty tight. Sometimes like I do it for a little bit longer, but it's whenever it's last updated, wait 5 minutes from that moment and then trigger this automation, which is another thing. So you could have like last modified time of the value. Now in this, we typically have to do a like daytime difference of now, between now and a certain time, which is something that a lot of people don't want to do in a base. But if your base isn't that large, this could be another way to do it.
Yeah, so this script does, if you can type faster than, let's say, 30 seconds, it allows you to not have to use the now formula, which Charlie's saying people don't like using it because sometimes it slows down your base if it's evaluating the now formula in every record.
That's a great point. You can get around the now situation. But to be honest, I actually haven't seen that much of an issue with the now function. Like, I think it's kind of a non-issue. I think it's something that we're all scared of, the boogeyman. But
Yeah,
I have big bases and I haven't, and they use nows, and I was afraid to use them, but they don't really have performance issues.
yeah.
So,
So that's how you get around some of these issues. If you want to go see another video that Charlie and I did around really similar, like kind of train of thoughts around like just quirky things to fix in Airtable, make your setup a lot better. In the video here in the end screen, we go through how to create unique companies. A common problem that Charlie and I have encountered is creating unique companies based on emails that you receive, and whether that may sometimes create duplicates if like two emails are ingested at the same time, or it creates people like with the same domain multiple times. So if you want to get around that, you can check out the video here in the end screen and we'll cover that. Thanks, Charlie.
thank you.